All the talk in the build-up to this second Test match has been about the new Perth Stadium and a drop-in wicket that has been created to be just as fast and bouncy as its feared predecessor. But I have to ask you, Chris, given Australia's brittle batting, is this really the sort of surface that gives the hosts the best chance of winning?
Oh, they'll think it's their best chance. As you said, I thought the talk was going to be about the two sides, and obviously India have got a few injury concerns, and Australia have got a couple of concerns at the top of the order, but they've made no changes. So, as you rightly pointed out, the talk has been about the surface or this wicket. And look, I'm sure if they're saying it's going to be hard, fast, and bouncy like normal Perth wickets, then it will be. And the other thing that I've heard is that it's extremely green, and some have even said that it's hard to differentiate the wicket between the wicket and the outfield. So, look, Australia are down 1-0, so it's no surprise to me that it's green. Their seamers, that was the one shining light in that first Test match, was their quick bowlers and how well they bowled. Their batters just didn't do the job for them, really, and hence the reason India won by 31 runs. So, look, I'm really excited, like everyone is, to see how the wicket plays tomorrow, because if it's as green as everyone says and it's bouncy and it seems a bit, this could be one of those Test matches that only goes 4 days.
Chris, you know, India captain Virat Kohli compared this pitch to the one that we saw in Johannesburg about a year back in that third Test that India won against South Africa after having lost the first two. That one was unplayable at times, but that's the sort of victory that will give the Indians a lot of confidence as well. Of course, adding to the momentum that they were able to build up with the Adelaide win.
Yes, look, I don't believe, or it's really hard to tell with the drop-in, but I don't believe this wicket will be unplayable. But if it's as green as they say, it certainly could be very challenging for the batsmen in the first day, even perhaps the first 2 days. Now, the scary thing for Australia is one of the shining lights from the first Test was the Indian seam attack as well. Now, we know Ashwin's injured, so there's a potential that they might not only bring in another all-rounder in Vilhari, but they also will bring in another seamer. So India might possibly go with an all-round seam attack as well. And look, I firmly believe, which is a real surprise in the first Test in Australia, that the Indian seamers matched, if not were slightly better what the Australians did. So look, Australia might think that it's giving them a slight advantage, but the way the Indian seam attack bowled in that first Test, I don't think they've got any advantage at all.
Now, you mentioned the injury concerns for India. No Rohit Sharma and, more importantly, no Ravichandran Ashwin. But I'm curious to know how you would pick a starting 11 now. Would you play a spinner, Chris, in Ravindra Jadeja, or go with 4 pacers, as has also been suggested?
Yeah, look, I think you need to play a spinner. I mean, we've talked about how green, and we've all played on surfaces that are very green and don't do that much. My concern is if it doesn't do as much as everyone thinks, that it's really good to have some variation, and Jadeja brings that with left arm spin. Look, there was some turn in that previous wicket, but both teams showed how important it was to have a spinner, not only as an attacking option to take wickets, and both the spinners took, Ashwin took 3 in each innings, and Lyon obviously took 6 in one innings. So it wasn't only their ability to get wickets, but it was also their ability to bowl tight overs and to give their seamers a rest, and I think that's really important. If you go into this Test match with 4 seamers, if you're India, and they don't get early wickets, then it's going to be a really tough uphill battle for them. So, look, I would be tempted to play the 3 seamers plus Vilhari plus Jadeja.
Okay, let's talk about Australia now, and Mitchell Starc in particular, because his recent form has come under the spotlight in the last few days. Even though he picked up 5 wickets in the Adelaide Test, we know that Australia have gone in with an unchanged 11, but do you think they would have been tempted to perhaps bolster their bowling resources with somebody like the all-rounder Mitchell Marsh?
Look, Stark's still very much a match winner. He's got that extra pace, he's got that bounce. And if you go through the greatest bowlers in the world, I mean, even though he got only 5 wickets in that first Test match, if you average 5 wickets a Test match in your career, you're up with the world's best. So, look, that's why he's so dangerous. We know that he wasn't at his absolute best, but he still took 5 wickets. If he gets it right, he could easily take 7, 8 or even 10. And the nature of this wicket, we know it's going to be hard, fast and bouncy, and it's going to really play into his hands. So, look, I don't have any concerns so much with Starc, because I know he'll be a real handful in this Test match, and I know it's something that the Indians will focus on and how they're going to play him.
Chris, now you would have played quite a few matches at that old WACA ground in Perth, and if the pitch is as similar as we're hearing it is going to be at the new stadium, what are the challenges for the batsmen on that sort of wicket and the adjustments that you need to make?
The adjustments that you have to make at Perth, I mean, particularly if it's green and it's seaming around, is obviously to get through those first 10 or 20 balls that you face. And if you get through those, you become a little bit more accustomed to the pace, and then you give yourself an opportunity to kick on. But the most important thing for me when I was playing at Perth is that you'll find that the batsmen not only leave on line in most conditions around the world, but in Perth you can leave on length as well. If it's back of a length, or even if it's a fuller length, you can actually leave the ball with confidence, knowing that it's going to go over the top of the stumps. Because what tends to happen, a fuller length at Perth goes through a lot higher than most grounds, so you're quite often going past that glove sort of area, the shoulder of the bat, and if it's going past there, if you're forward, you can leave those balls and go over the stump. So I think generally at Perth early on you'll see the batsmen leaving a lot more, and so the adjustment it's a real funny one, because generally the bowlers tend to bowl shorter if they get it wrong, because they're all excited about how far it flies through to the keeper, how fast it's going, and the keeper has to catch it above his head. But the bowlers that do well in Perth are the ones that bowl fuller. You've still got to bowl a length that ideally hits the top of the stumps, because you still, that gives you a chance to pick up all the type of dismissals, as in bowled, LBW and caught behind. If you get shorter, you limit your ways you can get a batsman out. So the team that I believe that responds the best will be the team that bowls the fullest.
Okay, one final question, Chris, and given the conditions that are seemingly on offer, you've said this yourself, that a draw does seem very unlikely. So this could really be a series-defining test match. Where do you think it will be decided?
I think, look, it really depends. It depends how the wicket plays. If it plays how everyone thinks it will, and it goes around a lot, then it's going to be the side that acclimatises the quickest and gets used to the conditions. And look, this could be a low-scoring test match. So 30, 40s and 50s that were scored in the last test that weren't perhaps enough could be vital in this test match. So the team that wins the toss is going to have a massive advantage, purely because if it does go around, they've got the opportunity to bowl the opposition out cheaply, and it gives them an idea of how the wicket's going to play. So, look, I'm in no doubt, unless the conditions change dramatically overnight, I'm in no doubt the team that wins the toss will bowl first. And not only because they're trying to use the best of the conditions for their bowler, it'll also give them a really good indication of how to play on this wicket. So, yeah, if it plays how everyone thinks, then I'll be very surprised if it goes 5 days. I think it's going to be a low-scoring test match. And I think, again, as the first test was, I think we're going to see scores in that sort of low 200s, especially in that first innings, if not even less.
A low-scoring test is what Chris Harris is predicting. On that note, Chris, thank you for joining me with your analysis once again, and I look forward to having you break down the action from what promises to be another intriguing test match.